This court case was an outright tragedy. Or was it? Mrs. McDaniels should have been at home dealing with grief and tending to her toddlers, a 2-year-old daughter and an 18-month-old son, but no! The rumor mill had churned scandalous news concerning her family, so she was in court that morning with the hope of salvaging whatever was left of her marriage. What was the problem?
Mrs. McDaniel, you opened your case today in hopes of salvaging your marriage with the defendant. You claim you two have suffered a great loss and should be grieving, but instead, due to rumors, your husband is denying your 2-year-old daughter, Ava Wells, and 18-month-old son, Daryl Wells.
Apparently, Mr. Wells, her husband, was making an outrageous claim questioning the paternity of the kids he shared with Mrs. McDaniels, and he even boasted of having evidence backing such claims. What sort of evidence could have made him so certain? What was his source?
You claim you have substantial evidence to prove you didn't father Ms. Wells' kids and say,
the saddest part was, while Mrs. McDaniels was struggling to deal with the loss of her son a few months ago, Mr. Wells was no longer interested in investing time or energy in kids he believed were no longer his. This family was falling apart. Were they always this unhappy?
You cannot give 100% of yourself until you have proof you did. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. McDaniel, what is your husband's denial doing to your family?
It's destroying us. Like, we don't need to go through this because we just lost a son 6 months ago and we need to be grieving with each other. And for him to deny my kids, it's destroying us even.
Initially, the estranged couple had met when Mr. Wells convinced his 5-year-old nephew to be a wingman and asked Mrs. McDaniels for her phone number. They were so happy. So what went wrong? Could they possibly find happiness again?
I want to get into these rumors, but before I do, I just want to get a little background on your family. Take me back. You all met.
We met, he was with his sister, and it was at a convention center, and he tried to get his 5-year-old to give me his number, and I was like, no, you asked.
A 5-year-old?
He called me friend. He called me friend.
It was my nephew. I seen that she spoke with my sister and them, so my nephew knew her, so I asked my nephew to go.
Your nephew was 5?
Yeah, at the time, he was 5.
Word on the street was Mr. Wells's wife, Mrs. McDaniels, was cheating on him since they had their first child and that the kids weren't his. Considering they have had 3 kids since then, why didn't he say anything? How credible is his source? Why now when they just lost a kid?
We both lost a son, but it's just the rumors and everything that I can't deal with it no more.
How long have you been hearing rumors?
I've heard them since the first one was born, the one we lost.
So since you all basically got together and started having children, you've heard rumors that your wife is with someone else?
Yes, that my kids belong to somebody else.
And who told you that?
My ex.
Surprisingly, Mr. Wells got this tea from his ex-girlfriend, who had told him that his wife was promiscuous and that the kids might not be his. Why was he listening to anything his ex had to say over his wife?
Megan is the thought of the place where they work at.
But this is your wife she's talking about.
Yes, yes.
So she just decides she's gonna call you out the blue and tell you your wife is a thought.
I mean, well, not out the blue, but she heard that she was pregnant. So she was like, I just want to let you know that might not be your baby.
Oh, so she was warning you.
Yeah.
And so when she told you this, did you have reason to believe or to suspect?
At first I didn't, no.
It turned out that Mr. Wells thought she had been sneaky way before then with her calls and text messages, but she denies this in court. Mrs. McDaniels thinks it may be something more than cleared call and text histories. What is really the truth at this point?
If you've got a good woman that you don't have any questions about, you trust her, she only goes to work, she comes back home, she's a good wife, she's, gonna be the mother of your children, how is it that some ex can come in and tell you something about your wife?
Well, it wasn't, after that, then she's been sneaky on the phone.
Ms. McDaniel starts acting sneaky?
Yeah, she's covering up her text messages, erasing them.
Oh, I delete my text messages. It's been a habit since I was little. I delete my texts every day at midnight, and I can admit to that.
The most surprising information was Mr. Wells thinks Ava, their second kid, isn't his because of the rumors of infidelity and lack of resemblance to him. Shocking, considering the vast racial difference between himself and Mrs. McDaniels. He had even told the kid she wasn't his kid. Was he right? Or did he just not understand Darwin's theory?
The rumors, and then she doesn't look like me. All of my kids, they all favor me in some way,
He has told my daughter, I'm not your daddy, go find your daddy.
What?
I did not say that.
Mr. Wells.
I did not say.
What did you say?
I probably told him, like, I ain't your daddy. Like, meaning today. Just a joke, though. I just playing with her.
No, that's not a joke.
Even more mind-boggling was the fact that Mr. Wells clearly also believes his last child isn't his because he failed to meet his own fail-proof genetic testing method. He believed his son should have had a roller coaster head, and he had a chart to prove it. Was this proof? A roller coaster head chart is total bonkers.
Your doubts have gotten you to the point where you're looking at a 2-year-old child who potentially could be your child. You don't believe it, and you say, I'm not your daddy. And how does she react when he says that?
I don't know how she feels or anything because I'm not her, but it hurts. I mean, she loves him to death. Like, she's a daddy's girl. I mean, she is my twin all the way, but she has his nose and she has a smart mouth.
Mr. Wells had been through a lot dealing with grief, bad rumors, and of course the kid's failure to meet Mr. Wells' roller coaster head chart was totally causing him to lose sleep at night. The court wasn't keen on the chart as proof, and so they had a different metric for proof.
At the end of the day, all of this doubt is truly tearing your family apart. You have this beautiful connection, this beautiful relationship, and now you are barely talking, sleeping in different bedrooms.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're not even at a place where you can grieve the loss of your child together. That's a lot, and that's hurtful.
That was my firstborn right there, and he was the world to me. So for him to deny my other ones tears me apart.
The court had 2 DNA tests. It was time to let this couple know what the truth was so everyone could move on. This was the moment of truth. This was a total drum roll moment.
Mr. Wells, you are the father. You look relieved.
I am. Very relieved.
Good.
The 2-year-old and 18-month-old's paternity results showed what no one was expecting, particularly Mr. Wells. Who is the father?
Second result. Mr. Wells, you are the father.
Sorry, baby.
Looks like the roller coaster head chart was too old to work for modern-day genetic testing, and Mr. Wells's ex didn't know what she was talking about at all. The tea was a stale lie. The truth had made everyone feel it was time to grieve.
Now that we have this result, tell them how it makes you feel.
I love you and I want our marriage to improve, but we need to grieve over our son and be there for each other. And I hope you start believing things I say, not your ex or any family members.
This courtroom showdown was a total fiasco. Was the kind that left a lump in everyone's throat. Mr. Benning had just learned after an appearance in couples court that his wife was cheating on him. He now had reasonable cause to doubt the paternity of his kids.
Hello.
This is the case of Benning versus Bodine.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Mr. Benning, you recently appeared in couples court and it was confirmed that the defendant cheated on you. This infidelity has caused questions regarding your 2-year-old daughter, Robin, and 6-month-old son, Jermaine Jr.'s paternity.
Despite reasonable doubts that his 2-year-old daughter and 6-month-old son may not be biologically his, Mr. Bennington was hopeful that he might be wrong, and surprisingly, on the other hand, his wife, Mrs., was very certain and even had proof that the kids were certainly his.
Well, that both are your children, you now have doubts. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Bodine, you claim that you are certain the plaintiff is Robin and Jermaine Jr.'s father and have evidence to support your claim. Is that correct?
Mr. Benning was so excited when he heard he was having a daughter after losing his sister early on in life, but this happiness was short-lived as doubt started to crowd his mind on the paternity of his daughter. But despite all of that, he loved her dearly. What had put salt in Mr. Benning's otherwise sweet tea?
And how these paternity doubts are affecting you.
Well, first off, Your Honor, my mother passed away when I was 14 years old. She was my best friend. We spent every waking moment together. And after she died, it, left me hurt. I always wanted a daughter, and I promised I was going to take care of her and treat her like my mother took care of me.
Despite admitting to cheating on Mr. Benning, Ms. Bodine asserted the daughter was his because she got pregnant with their daughter while she was pregnant.
And so tell me about the day you first found out she was pregnant.
Well, when she first came home and told me she was pregnant, I was excited, and especially once we found out that it was a girl. That's something that I've always wanted. That hyped me up.
Receiving a text from another man, claiming to be the father of his baby while his wife was in the delivery room just across from him, was the last thing Mr. Benning expected to happen. But that was exactly what happened. How could anyone deal with the repercussions of such a bold declaration?
It happened during labor, Your Honor. I was in the hospital sitting across from Kayla. She was pushing this baby out, and I received a text from a guy telling me to leave the hospital because that's his baby and he needs to be there.
Determined to pay the troll no mind and love his kid, he keeps it a secret and goes ahead to sign her birth certificate. That text totally had to be lying, or was it? The doubts started to creep in like Jack's beanstalks, but he was a fighter, or so he thought.
What do? You can't say anything to Miss Bodine while she's in labor, can you?
I just kept going and I signed her birth certificate.
So you just kept going through the entire experience?
I pushed through it. I wanted my daughter and I wasn't letting anybody take her from me.
So even though you had the doubt, you had to know.
Meanwhile, a very unashamed yet swift and resolute Ms. Bodine had conducted a test on her daughter and the man who had sent the text to her husband and found out his claims were bogus. This meant her husband had to be the father, and that was undeniable proof, or so she thought.
So, Miss Bodine, this other man sent a text to Mr. Benning while he's by your side at the hospital. How do you know this other guy is not the biological father?
Because, Your Honor, I stood up and did the woman and the mother thing I had to do and got the other.
The twist in the plot, however, is that despite Ms. Bodine's swift action, her husband's doubts couldn't be cleared, considering she had cheated on him with multiple partners.
So he was not the father?
No, he wasn't, because Jermaine's the father.
All right. So, Mr. Benning, you still build the relationship, but you still have a doubt?
Yes. Quite a few. First off, their DNA test doesn't mean anything concerning the fact that.
Moreover, it turns out Ms. Bodine taunted Mr. Benning about not being their daughter's father anytime they got in a spat. Apparently, she knew that was the worst way to hurt him in a quarrel and used it at Will.
Wrong. I'm also reminded, oh, you're not her father. As soon as we start to argue, you're not her father. But if you need something, I'm the father.
You say stuff to hurt my feelings. Why can't
I
I do
ever
it
told
to
you that you're not the parent of your kid?
You can't. I pushed him out.
Poor Mr. Benning had to deal with a constant barrage of calls from strange men claiming to be his daughter's father, and his wife hitting him below the belt with the same claims every time they fought. He believed his daughter was his mother's reincarnation, and every time he heard he wasn't her father, it felt like life was taking his mom away repeatedly.
She looks just like your mom.
Mr. Benning, I do want you to explain to Miss Bodine, because I feel like, Miss Bodine, to say someone is not the father of a child, now that's a little below the belt.
That's not just hurting somebody's feelings,
Yeah.
you're ruining somebody's life.
And I want you to tell her what that feels like so she can understand. What does that feel like when she says that to you, Mr. Benning?
In spite of her taunting her husband about not being her daughter's biological father, Ms. Bodine still asserted unashamedly that she believes he is her daughter's biological father. But unsurprisingly, Mr. Benning wasn't having it. What could the truth be?
The child isn't his.
I don't know. I cannot control what other people say. I know what I'm saying and I know what I prove. So you have your doubt or not. I'm here to prove today that you're the father.
Because you are just 100% certain.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
The facts were clear as stated by the judge in a shocking twist of fate. Ms. Bodine's daughter was someone else's biological daughter. Mr. Benning resolutely still loved her regardless, but wanted to know the paternity of his 6-month-old son. The court obliged his request.
Mr. Benning, you are not the father. I'm very sorry.
It doesn't matter, I'm still gonna be there. I'm lonely when she calls daddy. You can't change it. We spent 2 years together. You can't change that. You can't take that away.
Experiencing a real sense of déjà vu with his son, because the same thing that played out with his daughter's birth, including paternity questions being raised by strangers texting his phone, questioning the paternity of the child and his wife taunting him yet again, Mr. Benning had little hope the baby was his. Maybe he was wrong.
On top of that, the same thing with the, texting me, telling me I'm not the father. I even received a text telling me after he was born, which I still went through the whole labor, everything. After that, after all that, I get a text telling me, oh, I want a paternity test for Jermaine too.
It was time to smell the coffee, and Mr. Benning was ready for the truth about his son's paternity. He would love him regardless and support him no matter the outcome.
Mr. Benning, what are your hopes?
I hope Jermaine's mine. I really do. It'd be good to know at least one of my kids is mine. Yeah, I'm looking forward to spending all the time I can with him.
The verdict was out, and the judge dropped the bomb. Was everything going to be okay in the future?
Mr. Benning, you are not the father.
What the?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Benning.
I got cribs and playpens and toys, and I've done everything that I do, and
The puzzling case of Loman versus Mitchell had those sitting in the court gallery clutching their pearls. Mr. Loman had vowed not to marry his fiancée if their daughter wasn't his.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is the case of Loman versus Mitchell.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Ms. Loman, you are in court today hoping and praying your fiancé, Mr. Mitchell, is the biological father of your daughter, London, and you and your mother are here to prove it.
Apparently, Mitchell's family had told him they believed he was being taken advantage of by his family, coupled with the fact that his fiancée had also mentioned that his daughter may or may not be his biological child, had initiated doubt in his paternity.
All right, so you're joined by your cousin who fears you're being taken advantage of by the plaintiff. So, Ms. Loman, today's results will determine the future of your family. Explain.
Your Honor, when me and Jonathan got together, I was very happy.
Things get even more interesting as Ms. Loman reveals that she and Mr. Mitchell started off as sneaky links when he started living with her and her family in their family home, despite her being in a relationship at the time. Mr. Mitchell had made the first move on her.
So talk to me about the nature of your relationship.
We met when we were sophomores in high school. Junior year, we had a lot of classes together, so we became really good friends. And, he started opening up to me and telling me, about his home life.
And so your relationship started while he was living with you and your family?
Never for sure told him he hasn't been.
It came to be that the unprotected sneaky links between Loman and Mitchell continued, and her boyfriend at the time never found out. So when Ms. Loman got pregnant, her boyfriend believed the baby was his until it wasn't. So who was the dad?
But you're still in a relationship with this boyfriend at the time, am I correct, Ms. Loman?
Yes, Your Honor.
So what was that situation like?
He never found out, and to this day, he still doesn't know.
He does not know to this day that you were also sleeping with Mr. Mitchell.
Right, Your Honor.
Was this just a one-time thing when you all ended up having sex, or did it continue?
In an unsurprising turn of events, Ms. Loman's affair was catching up with her quickly as she found out when she was 6 weeks pregnant that the baby had been conceived at a time when she had slept with Mr. Mitchell more than her initial boyfriend. Was this enough reason to believe he was the baby daddy?
That point, were you all dating now, you and Ms. Loman?
No, Your Honor. We were not dating at the time I told him there was a possibility. I was still with my ex at the time.
Okay. And so this ex believed this is my child.
Yes, Your Honor.
You never said anything to Mr. Mitchell.
Furthermore, baby London's features, which in Ms. Loman's opinion were very similar to Mr. Mitchell's, strengthened her belief that he was her baby daddy. Was she right?
Everything pointed to Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, Your Honor.
How do you tell him?
We were sitting at home, and I told him, I was like, there is a possibility that London could be yours, and because I looked at the dates. And then after she was born, I was like, Mr. Mitchell, she looks just like you. I was like, she has your eyes, the same exact eye color.
However, Mr. Mitchell's cousin begged to differ with the argument that Ms. Loman simply chose her current fiancé to be the child's father simply because he was convenient and would take care of the kid.
I believe that she knows that Jonathan is going to do what is right. He loves the baby, and he is going to step up and be the father that she needs. And I feel like because she knows that is why we are in the situation we are in.
This begs the question, did Ms. Loman really believe that was her baby's daddy because of her conception dates? Or because she just wanted him to be her baby daddy because she loved him and it was convenient? She denied the latter.
The point is this. You say you love this man, and you say you truly believe he's London's biological father. My question is this: is your belief that he's London's biological father rooted in the fact that you love him so much?
The moment of truth was here. Would the results allow Ms. Loman to be a bride in the coming weeks? Would Mr. Mitchell get to explore the joys of being a girl dad?
Mr. Mitchell, you are not the father. Ms. Loman, I can tell that was not the news you were expecting to hear.
This case is one for the delulous. Mr. Webb was forced to be in court together with his girlfriend to prove that he was not the father of another woman, Ms. Cole's baby. Ms. Cole, on the other hand, wasn't here for his denial and was ready to prove beyond reasonable doubts Mr. Webb was her baby daddy.
Please be seated.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is the case of Webb versus Cole.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Mr. Webb, you and your girlfriend say there's no chance whatsoever that you fathered the defendant's 6-month-old daughter, Majestic.
Not to be deterred by threat of strong proof, on the other hand, Ms. Cole and her mother were very certain that Mr. Webb was her baby's father, and the only reason he was saying the contrary was to save his 3-year-old relationship. So who was telling us the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Cole, you and your mother say you're 100% certain that Mr. Webb is your child's biological father and say the only reason he's denying your baby is to save his relationship.
A chilling bombshell was dropped by Mr. Webb as his first line of defense. He had never slept with Ms. Cole, and so couldn't possibly be her baby daddy. This was the curious case of Joseph and Mary again, except this time, Mary was certain Joseph was the father. Or was he? Interestingly,
yes, Your Honor.
All right, so Mr. Webb, how can you be so certain you are not this child's biological father?
I never had sex with her, Your Honor.
Well, that would rule. You've never had sex with her?
No.
Yeah, he did.
She's a liar. She's crazy.
Mr. Webb had stayed in Ms. Cole's house for a specific period of time. The exact duration of time both parties couldn't agree on, but Ms. Cole was certain they slept with each other at that time. Was someone lying? Delusional? Or just maybe telling the truth between these two?
Rarely have we ever heard that you've never had sex with her.
She's absolutely crazy.
So you think she's just making this up?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yes.
If you've never had sex, why are you here?
I know for a fact the dates line up, and I know he stayed with me for 2 months, and he slept in my bed with me for 1 night, and we had sex. April 11th.
That's when you believe you conceived your daughter?
Yeah.
This was a case of two cities, with each one telling stories that didn't align with each other to make sense. The judge was greatly puzzled and in dismay as the parties hurled aggressive accusations of falsehood, and it turns out, not only was Ms. Cole married, she insists Mr. Cole, who was a guest in their home at some point, was the father of the baby from the marriage.
So, Ms. Cole, you said you and your husband were taking care of Mr. Webb?
Yes, and my grandkids and anybody else that needed.
Why was Mr. Webb living with you?
He's a punk bum. We
Honor,
supplied everything for them.
Why were you living there?
I wasn't living there. We were hanging out for a week and a half.
Enter Mr. Webb's girlfriend. She explains why she's standing 10 toes behind her man and why she believes he's not the father either. Ms. Cole wasn't here for her claims either.
She knew about it. We were friends. She trusts me. She knows I'm not like that. I don't do that type of stuff.
I've known him for 7 years and he is not like that at all. She was telling me that they were sleeping together and stuff. He wasn't even there for 3 weeks. He was there for a week, maybe a week and a half. Yes, he was I knew they were hanging out.
She had heard her voice in the background numerous times. How does that make sense?
Undeterred and unashamed, Ms. Cole had been reaching out to Mr. Webb's partner to allege their sex capades and also informed her of the pregnancy she believed was Mr. Webb's. The girlfriend initially believed her, but was subsequently not here for her lies, and neither was her boyfriend, Mr. Webb. Let's see why.
And what you're saying is you never ended up being intimate with her, like
No.
she's saying.
All right,
No.
where did you sleep?
On the couch in the living room.
Mr. Webb, how did you find out she was pregnant? Do you have a diagram?
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Please step forward.
This is how this went, the first message. She messaged me saying, hey, I got an ultrasound. She had sent me an ultrasound saying, that's a 3D photo. Tell me she don't look like you.
Moreover, Ms. Cole was also in court to contest and confirm the paternity of her child because she had another partner at the time. She clearly had niggling doubts on who the father might be, but why exactly was she more certain Mr. Webb was her baby father? Did they really not sleep together like Mr. Webb claims?
He's the dad, because I did have another partner. It was a month.
Wait a minute, Miss Cole.
Look, she looks just like him.
That baby's white.
I'm sorry. Yes, Your Honor. I immediately texted him and called the other guy, and I told both of them.
That's a lie.
So this calendar outlines what exactly?
Clearly, this case was far from over. Mr. Webb was so certain he never slept with Mrs. Cole. He insinuated that maybe the only reason he has no recollection of the action if it did happen was because Ms. Cole might have done something unseemly to his food or drink. Ms. Webb's rebuttal to this statement was literally below the belt, but Mr. Webb's girlfriend was ready to defend her man. What did they have to say?
There was 2 witnesses there that said that they never had sex at the party.
2 of our friends were there. One of them were her family members, and even he said that we didn't do nothing.
If it goes on that long, are you sure that one night of partying didn't lead you to sleep with her and you may not even recall?
The judge was so done with both parties after they kept comparing ethnic and genetic traits, whilst also hurling insults and disrespecting the court. It was time to solve the paternity mystery.
He's the father. I was without my father for 39 years. I want to know that my grandchild has a father. I know how it is.
This is.
Oh,
these
yeah,
are some
I do
text
wanna
messages
ask
that she.
I'm sorry, I'm still getting over the previous testimony. Jerome, pass me this evidence. You believe there's a resemblance?
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Apparently, the other prospective father for baby Majestic was incarcerated, and Mr. Webb had never entertained the idea of being a father. Yet Ms. Cole thought she would have the last laugh and be vindicated in court. Well, let's see who did.
Mr. Webb, you are not her father.
Oh! Yeah! You're crazy!
Ms.
You need to go to a mental hospital!
Ms. Webb!
There, get her there, get her there.
Mr. Webb, Ms. Reams, stop.
But I want a lie detector.
Listen, we don't clown in this courtroom.
Nothing short of melodramatic, this case was one for the books. Mr. Walls had caught his wife in the most awkward position with someone else after being away for a short while.
Please be seated.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is the case of Walls versus Walker.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Mr. Walls, you say that after spending a short time...
The gag is, that wasn't the first time she was doing something like that. He clearly couldn't trust her, but not to be outdone, Ms. Walker had a few choice adjectives to describe Mr. Walls, too.
Mr. Walls, you say that after spending a short time away from Ms. Walker, you caught her with someone else's hands in her cookie jar.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you say Ms. Walker is a serial cheater and there is no way you are her child's father.
Yes, Your Honor.
They weren't always this hostile towards each other. How did they get here? The parties take a trip down memory lane to narrate how they met and why the doubts about the child's paternity started. It was love next door for the estranged couple, and they had a lot to say.
So, Mr. Walls, how did you get in this relationship?
Well, I worked across the street from where Dominique stayed, and when Dominique would walk out of her house going down the street, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? You know, trying to catch her attention.
Ms. Walker?
Yes, Your Honor.
He seemed like he was a gentleman courting you. You went out with him?
Knowing that Ms. Walker was thirsting after other men while he wasn't in the picture for a brief period might have been the catalyst for doubts concerning the paternity of the child to arise. He had even spied on her, or maybe a silhouette.
So you all were having sex?
Yeah.
Without protection, but not in a relationship. So when she told you she was pregnant and it was your child, you had doubt?
Yeah.
Your Honor, when I told her I was pregnant, and he had said, well, I need to take a DNA test because he said he didn't trust me.
But she admitted to cheating, though.
The plot thickened even further as Mr. Walls exposed seeing Ms. Walker during one of her alleged sneaky links. At this point, the members of the audience were all clutching their pearls at the admission that she might have been in the family way when this happened. Ms. Walker remained unperturbed by the allegations as she tagged them as unfounded. Was it really so?
I goes all the way back around the corner, come back, slow down. Like, that ain't Ms. Walker. Like, nah. So I said, forget it. I drive on around again. I'm on
You
around
on
again.
your third lap?
Yeah, I'm on my third lap now.
Step back over to the podium, sir. Thank you for that description.
Surprisingly, Mr. Walls also had skeletons in his moral closet, as apparently he wasn't very single while creeping around Ms. Walker. She also had a very interesting rebuttal to who Mr. Walls might have seen her with, which begs the question, who was telling the truth?
It was a family member.
Yeah, get them.
It was one of my family members came over to check on me because I was calling him the same day. I was calling him,
If I had a nickel.
Because
If I had a nickel. So, you know, she knew this though. It wasn't no big secret to her.
Even more empty promises of commitment and missed birth deadlines, this case was turning into an explosive mess. Side partners and a baby mama and kids for a flatmate? It was at the very least melodramatic. This couple were playing a game with each other and neither wanted to lose.
He was telling me that he gonna promise to leave her.
Hold on. Throughout the pregnancy, you were by yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
He didn't help you go to doctor's appointments or any of that kind of stuff?
Nothing. He was not there.
Was he at the birth?
No.
Is he on the birth certificate?
Why I wasn't at the birth?
His name
Let's
was
not
birth
get there.
No.
Let's not get there why I wasn't at the birth.
Clearly, Ms. Walker and Mr. Walls, having almost a football team worth of kids between them, didn't teach them to protect themselves during sneaky links, coupled with the fact that Ms. Walker's pregnancy was asymptomatic, led to a baby they didn't bargain for. The court brought in a specialist in obstetrics to discuss this, and she had a lot to say.
And one thing leads to the next. I'm on the pool table.
Oh, it was
we did not use
operating hours?
Huh?
No,
it wasn't.
No. Club that I had belonged to, you know, as a member, you can have a key to the bar.
To thicken the plot, Mr. Walls was suing Ms. Walker for a specific sum of money as damages for the car he allegedly gave her, but Ms. Walker had something entirely different to say. Looks like details will never align with this couple.
You're suing for $2,500.
Yes.
You say you lent Miss Walker your car.
Yes.
And never got it back?
No.
Explain.
In my heart, you know, I'm a big old softy. You know, in my heart, I was like, I'm gonna give Miss Walker this car.
You gonna give her this car or you're going to let her use it?
I'm gonna let her use it.
It turned out Ms. Walker had gotten into a car accident and so couldn't account for the vehicle she was given. While she may not be able to give back the car, she was willing to give or expect an apology depending on the results of the paternity test.
I ain't could get the car back because I got in a car accident. The car was so messed up, Your Honor, it could not move. If he wanted the car, I could give him the car.
So
But
now
it-
you
not
do
now.
admit that he told you to give it back. He was basically lending you the car.
The results were in, and the adjudicator was not playing around with this couple. She had given Ms. Walker at least 5 chances to come forth with the truth. It looked like Ms. Walker wasn't in suspense as to the results of the paternity test and knew who her baby's father was, unlike the rest of the court. Why wouldn't she just tell the court the truth? It had been 3 years since.
Mr. Walls, you are not her father. Ms. Walker, I gave you an opportunity, at least 5.
Well, I apologize. I'm sorry.
3 years, 3 years. Do you know who her father is?
Yeah.
Was it the guy in the car?
No.
Why not just be honest?
Because I was scared.
In a courtroom where drama knows no limits, paternity court has seen its share of emotional moments, but nothing compares to when dangerous gangsters or individuals with criminal records take the stand. These aren't typical paternity cases. They're high-stakes confrontations where DNA results can lead to far more than child support. For some, a positive or negative outcome could be life-changing, further complicating fragile family dynamics. These dramatic moments are some of the most unforgettable in paternity court history, with revelations that can change lives forever, making these episodes some of the most gripping and unpredictable yet. Let's jump right in. Our first entry is a truly intriguing case, one of urgency and high stakes. Unlike anything you've ever seen before, at the heart of it, a DNA test could land a Michigan man in jail for unpaid child support. A novel twist that has everyone on edge. Quite the turn of events, wouldn't you agree? In the case of Adams versus Williams, Mr. Adams was in such a precarious position that he couldn't even attend the hearing in person. His mother had to stand in for him because he was under house arrest confined to Flint, Michigan. Facing the threat of imminent arrest for back child support, he appeared via satellite with his mother at his side. This was his final chance to prove that he was not the father and stay out of jail. A last stand to avoid disaster.
Ms. Adams, you say you're here today regarding a matter of extreme urgency.
Yes.
Now, your son, Mr. Adams, is joining us via satellite from Flint, Michigan, because he's been prohibited by law enforcement from leaving your home state. And you claim he's on the verge of being arrested for back child support.
On the other side of the courtroom stood Ms. Williams, resolute in her belief that Mr. Adams was indeed the father. In her mind, all of his legal troubles were his own to bear. After all, in her eyes, he had never played the role of a father. Harsh, but undeniably her truth.
Ms. Williams, you say Mr. Adams is indeed your baby's biological father, and you argue his legal issues are his own fault because he never stepped up for his son.
Yes, Your Honor.
When asked to give a brief history of their relationship, Mr. Adams didn't hold back. He painted a picture of a non-committed relationship that started at a house party, claiming that Ms. Williams had made advances to get intimate with him on the very first date. In his mind, this was all the proof he needed to call her character into question.
No, I really wouldn't call it no relationship. You know, I met her at a house party. She tried to have sex with me on the first date, so that was a judge of character right there.
But you weren't in a committed relationship.
No, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Williams...
Ms. Williams didn't shy away from the facts. She openly admitted their relationship was on and off, even confessing that she had been intimate with other men during that same period, without protection. This admission seemed to bolster the suspicions that Mr. Adams and his mother already harbored.
I mean, no, when we was young at the time, we hooked up on and off, and you know, it just.
So it was just an on and off thing?
Yeah, it was just an on and off thing.
So if it wasn't committed during that time, were you also sleeping with other men as well?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Without using protection?
Yes.
All right, so the doubts that Mr. Adams and his mother have, they are valid doubts.
It's a possibility.
Adding yet another twist, Ms. Williams revealed that during this time, she had also been in contact with her ex-boyfriend. Initially, when she found out she was pregnant, she believed that he was the father. But after a DNA test proved otherwise, she was forced to consider other possibilities.
You tell him you're pregnant.
Yes.
What happened?
Me and my ex was still trying to make things work, and we were still messing around or whatever. So we just went through that whole year. I was pregnant. I didn't mention him about the baby until I found out it wasn't my ex.
So you didn't even include Mr. Adams in this equation.
No, I didn't.
You thought it was your ex's. And
yes,
your ex
yes, I
said,
did.
well.
In an effort to put the matter to rest, Ms. Williams eventually reached out to Mr. Adams, requesting a DNA test to establish paternity. However, he declined. Interestingly, she had originally stated that she didn't need child support, but later changed her mind and went to the state, declaring Mr. Adams as the father, with no proof to back her claim.
He may be the father of John.
Okay, but you said, I don't want child support, I don't want any of this, but it got to the point where you needed help, and so you went to the state.
Yes.
And then during that time, you had to name who the potential father could be.
Yes, I did.
And you gave the state his name.
Yes, I did.
The state didn't waste any time in addressing the situation. They swiftly summoned Mr. Adams to court, determined to settle the paternity issue. However, at the time, Mr. Adams was incarcerated, completely unaware of the legal proceedings unraveling around him. Due to his imprisonment, he never received the subpoenas or had the chance to present his side of the story. As a result, without any defense or objection, he was proclaimed the father by default, leaving him to face the full weight of legal responsibility for a child he hadn't even been able to contest.
And then he was ordered to go to court.
Yes, he was.
Mr. Adams, did you go to court?
No, Your Honor. Only due to the fact that I was incarcerated, so I didn't receive any court subpoenas, anything, Your Honor. I was incarcerated.
So you didn't show up that day and you were deemed the
Things quickly escalated from there. Before Mr. Adams could even wrap his head around the situation, his child support debt began to skyrocket. In what felt like the blink of an eye, the amount owed reached a staggering $2,000, and it just kept climbing. With no chance to dispute the claim and already behind bars, the weight of the financial burden seemed insurmountable. His life had taken a drastic turn, and now he was entangled in a legal and financial nightmare that felt impossible to escape.
Why wouldn't I want to show up to my own DNA test to get my son tested? Why wouldn't I? If I knew about it, I would have showed up.
So now the total arrears are over $1,000.
And then came the moment of his dramatic arrest. Completely unaware of the trouble looming over him, Mr. Adams casually walked into a store, and as soon as the police ran his name, bam! He was taken into custody, spending that night and 9 more in jail. But here's the shocking part. The reason he never took the DNA test was because he was too hungover to show up for the appointment.
Mr. Adams, you claim you already spent time in jail for failure to pay support.
Yes, Your Honor.
What happened?
Basically, I was walking to the store to get some cigarettes. Police just ran our names. Now, I didn't even know I had a warrant. So I gave them my name proud, like, I'm Lassiter Adams. I ain't think I had no warrant. Come to find out, he come back to me like, oh, Mr. Adams, you got a warrant for child support. I'm like, what?
Now the stakes couldn't be higher. A DNA confirmation could send one person to jail, while the other party finally gets the closure they've been seeking for years. The results are in who will have the last laugh.
That Mr. Adams is not the father.
Take me off child support, baby.
The next case is nothing short of dramatic. Mr. Redmond Jr. versus Mrs. Patterson. A tale tangled in years of mistrust, debt, and heartache. This one is much more intriguing, as the man in question has been to jail for defaulting on child support, racking up a debt to the tune of $10,000 and even more. That's a lot, you'll agree. But Mr. Redmond believed, without an iota of doubt, that both his daughters were not his biological children. As far as he was concerned, the child support wasn't his to pay, and with that belief, he felt justified.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone.
Good day.
Mr. Redmond, you currently owe more than $10,000 in child support for the defendant's 2 teenage daughters, LaQuandria Redmond and Kaisha Redmond, who you say are not yours. Is that correct?
On the other side of the courtroom, Ms. Patterson stood firm, speaking with 100% certainty that the children were indeed Mr. Redmond's. She was confident the DNA results would settle it once and for all. A grand slam in her favor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Patterson, you say you are 100% certain that both girls are his daughters, and you cannot wait to prove the truth.
For over 19 years, Mr. Redmond had provided for the children, but in that time, his child support dues climbed up to an overwhelming $16,000.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is $16,198 in child support that you owe.
So where did the doubts come from? Ms. Patterson stated firmly that nothing could have sparked such suspicion, but Mr. Redmond came prepared. He wasn't about to walk away quietly. Armed with his evidence, he was ready to prove that his ex-wife had cheated on him multiple times, contrary to her claims.
You say they are his children.
They are his, ma'am. I never cheated on her.
She's untrustworthy, Your Honor. I've caught her cheating on me numerous amount of times.
So wait, you submitted evidence to the court.
Yes, Your Honor.
Step forward so I can have you explain this evidence you have in the...
His first piece of evidence? A picture of Ms. Patterson and her friend in the bathroom, pants down, caught red-handed. Like a thief caught in the act, the man fumbled to adjust his clothes, but it was too late. He'd been seen.
And he had his pants down.
That is a lie.
When I walked into the bathroom, Your Honor, his pants was down, and he quickly tried to pull them up, and
that
she stood up.
That is a lie.
What?
Yes, Your Honor.
That is a
This
lie.
is when you all were dating?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh.
Naturally, Ms. Patterson denied it all, calling the accusation a blatant lie.
You're saying that's not true?
That's not true.
So what's
Mr.
this
Redmond
next
is
picture?
lying.
But Mr. Redmond wasn't done. Next came Exhibit B, a photo of Mr. Redmond arriving home after work, only to spot a tall, dark-skinned man walking away from their apartment.
From work, Your Honor, this was when we was married. Your Honor, I rode bicycle in the cold to go to work. Your Honor, when I got home, it was a tall, dark-skinned man walking out of my apartment.
Once again, when confronted, Ms. Patterson denied knowing anyone who looked like that. "He's always accusing me," she exclaimed.
That is not true, Your Honor.
Ms. Patterson, do you know anyone that looks like that?
No, Your Honor, I really don't. In his mind, I was with everybody.
So you're saying he just constantly accuses you?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, Your Honor.
Still, Mr. Redmond wasn't finished. He was armed to the teeth. Exhibit C followed, a secret recording captured from an air vent in his apartment. On that recording, groans and moans from his bedroom, a place where no other man should be.
I placed a secret tape recorder in the air vent at my apartment after I caught the dark-skinned fellow coming out of my apartment. The trust was gone, so I put the tape recorder inside the air vent.
So that's your tape recorder. You put it in the air vent.
Yes, ma'am.
So you could record what was going on in your house?
In the bedroom. Yes, sure. I heard moaning and groaning. I heard a man's voice in my room, in my bedroom.
Ms. Patterson, of course, had her own version. She admitted there was indeed a recording, but claimed it was just static. No groaning or moaning whatsoever. Talk about chaos trying to decipher the truth from fiction. Wouldn't you agree?
In that bedroom, Your Honor.
Ms. Patterson, do you remember any of this?
I remember the tape recording. Nothing was on it. He played it. The only thing you could hear was...
Just when the court thought they'd seen it all, another bombshell dropped. Mr. Redmond described a disturbing scene at Ms. Patterson's workplace. He had visited her, only to find her in bed with another man. Disheartened, he left without saying a word.
The front people told me where she was at, how to find her location. I went back there to find the location that they told me to go to.
Okay.
I observed Ms. Patterson in the bed with another man.
Oh,
on top of the man.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Wait, so this is you observing?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you confront her?
I didn't confront her, Your Honor. I was so hurt and discouraged. I walked away, got in my car, and left.
And predictably, Ms. Patterson responded in the same way. Complete denial. "I have no idea what he's talking about," she declared.
I would have lost my job. Your Honor, I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, but there's more. Mr. Redmond described yet another encounter, this time at Ms. Patterson's hometown. He claimed to have walked in on her, sitting comfortably on another man's lap. But once again, Ms. Patterson dismissed the claim as fiction. It was a pendulum swinging back and forth between these two.
When we was in her hometown, I creeped up on her at her family's house. When I got there, Your Honor, I went round the back where they usually be, and I observed Miss Patterson drinking beer, smoking cigarettes, sitting on another man's lap.
You thought maybe he could be her father because she was having a relationship with him as well?
Yes, ma'am.
One thing that baffled the court, though, was that Mr. Redmond never denied being the children's father, at least not until Ms. Patterson left him. That's quite a long time to be harboring doubts, don't you think?
So when did he really start denying the children?
When I left him.
After what felt like endless back and forth, the court decided to bring the children in. They were asked the all-important question, did they have any recollection of Mr. Redmond being a father to them? Their answer was as shocking as shock could get. They had none, not a single memory of him as their father. For 19 years, Ms. Patterson had played both roles, mom and dad.
Mr. Redmond.
Nothing at all.
Really?
Yes.
And you've been told this is your father?
Yes, I have been told that he was my father, but this is my father right here because she has been here my whole entire life.
And so you have no relationship with Mr. Redmond?
Not at all.
How about you, Kaisha?
No, ma'am.
Things took a turn for the worse when Mr. Redmond made a stunning claim. He stated that he'd had the children, but that they were kidnapped by their mother.
The kids were kidnapped from me when they were in my custody. She came back and stole the kids from me. She kept them away from me so that I would not be able to have a relationship with these kids. Then I found out when
Why is you sitting here lying?
This accusation didn't sit well with the children. They immediately erupted in defense of their mother, standing firmly against Mr. Redmond's claim. To make matters worse, they revealed how they struggled to make ends meet, hustling from hand to mouth, with no support from their father.
My mama ain't never had kidnapped us. She the one that signed them birth certificates. You ain't signed nothing. You paid child support 1 or 2 times. You think that's gonna do something? It ain't gonna do nothing. You don't help my mama pay bills. You don't help us with anything. I have to come out my pocket and help pay rent. You don't do nothing.
The ruckus in the courtroom was overwhelming. Judge Lauren, seeing the tension, decided to bring it all to an end. The time had come to reveal the DNA results and put everyone out of their misery.
Mr. Redmond, you are the father.
We both look alike.
Mr. Redmond, you are the father.
Next up is a case of father versus daughter, Lapine versus Lapine. One of the most dramatic cases, to be honest, where a grown woman seeks to discover her biological father just before her wedding. Let's dive right in. For 30 years, Ms. Brandy Lapine believed that Mr. Richard Lapine was her father, until a bombshell was spilled over dinner. A family member casually mentioned that Richard may not be her biological dad. Shocking, right?
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone.
Good day.
Ms. Lapine, you say for the past 30 years, you'd always believed the defendant, Mr. Lapine, was your dad.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then just months ago at a family dinner, you were told by a family member that he's not your biological father.
On the other hand, Mr. Lapine had spent years in jail for unpaid child support, and this battle over paternity could destroy his life again. The stakes were high. If Brandy isn't his daughter, he might return to prison.
Discover the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Lapine, you say you've spent years in jail for unpaid child support, and your life has been turned upside down.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tomorrow, you have yet another court date.
Yes, Your Honor.
You claim you could be locked up again if today's results prove you are indeed Miss Lapine's biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
The news hit Brandy like an unwelcome surprise. Picture it. Everyone was enjoying dinner, chatting about family, until one relative suddenly remarked that Brandy and Richard didn't even look alike. What a way to shatter the mood. The beauty of the evening crashed right then and there.
Saying that, well, you don't know if he's your dad or not because you don't look like your dad.
Curious but cautious, Brandy asked another family member for clarity, but they shrugged it off, claiming it wasn't the time or the place.
What did you say?
I went to another family member and asked if this was true, and they just told me that this was not the time or place to talk about it and just shrugged it off.
Wow. So did you reach out to your father?
Unable to contain the growing doubt, Brandy turned to her father for the truth, and his response, that there was indeed a possibility, just enough to water the seeds of uncertainty that had been planted in her mind.
Yes.
And what did you say?
I called him the next day and asked him if it was true, and my father said that that guy was around at the time, so then he started questioning it.
So hold on, they gave you a name?
Gave me a name.
For all those years, Richard had believed Brandy to be his daughter. He'd even served 4 to 5 years in jail for child support. But now, the question of paternity had been raised, and worse still, he was at risk of returning to jail for unpaid child support. Pathetic, to say the least.
For 30 years, all this time, you believe this young girl was your daughter?
Yes, ma'am. And I've been 4 to 5 years in jail, and it gets rough.
4 to 5 years in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
For unpaid child support.
Yes, ma'am.
For a young woman that calls you and then says, some family member told me you may not even be my biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
You actually have a court date tomorrow.
1:30 tomorrow afternoon.
Following this breaking news, Richard began piecing the timeline together, counting the months back to when his wife was pregnant. The more he reflected, the more unaccounted for months surfaced. 2 or 3 months where something didn't quite add up. His doubts solidified.
After you learned her mother was pregnant,
I went all the way back. I thought about everything after that.
what were your revelations?
I counted back months. I was like, wait a minute, there's a month or 2 here that I wasn't even down there and she's supposed to be pregnant at this time.
You started doing some math and you felt like it didn't add up.
Yes, ma'am.
You said, well, the window of conception would have been around this time and
Yes, ma'am, exactly.
this may or may not be mine.
Yes, ma'am.
Interestingly, Richard had no reason to believe his wife was cheating on him while they were together. But after their separation, he began hearing rumors that she had been intimate with some of his friends and other men. This only fueled his doubts.
After me and her separated, I was told by friends of mine that they had slept with her and other people.
Wow. So
to add salt to injury, Brandy didn't resemble Richard at all, unlike her sister Jennifer, who looked like the spitting image of their father.
Ms. Lapine, do you feel like she looks?
No, ma'am, she looks nothing like me. And the dark
But your
skin,
other daughter, you claim looks like you.
dark hair, dark skin, skinny, looks identical to me.
Jennifer revealed that as they grew up, family members would often make random jokes and tease them, saying one of them was the milkman's baby.
When did you hear about there being any doubt?
I mean, we were always teased about it, but...
Who would tease you?
It's just different family members, so...
What would they say?
It was just things like, oh, well, you're the milkman's baby, you know, stuff like that. It's just been, you know, after so many years, you think something, and then it comes out, and then you see it affect everybody. It's not just...
To prove her point further, Jennifer presented a family photo showing herself, Richard, and Brandy. The resemblance was unmistakable. Jennifer looked like Richard, while Brandy didn't.
And you feel like you strongly resemble your father,
right?
But Brandy does not.
Right.
When you look at this picture, Brandy?
Brandy, however, had always assumed that she just looked more like her mother, but shared Richard's personality. After all, kids don't always look like both parents, right? Simple logic.
I look like my mom, but I always thought I had my dad's attitude.
Okay, that's fair.
I always thought that, but I mean, as you could tell, no, we don't look nothing alike, but...
Then came the emotional tidal wave. The rain of tears began when Brandy hinted at all the moments her father had missed in her childhood. 10 years of absence.
But where was he when he wasn't in jail?
I left.
Richard and Brandy's mother had broken up when Brandy was just 3 years old, and when she asked him to leave, he never looked back. He was out of their lives for a decade.
And how old was Miss Lapine then? How old was your daughter?
3. I just packed my stuff and left. Now I wish I'd never left.
So, Mr. Lapine, you have regrets?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you feel like you let your daughters down?
I did let them down, and I'm sorry. I wish I'd never left. I wasn't worried about what their mom had to say.
Despite the sorrowful cloud hanging over this lost time, Richard's life wasn't entirely bleak. He found some joy after his separation, meeting Ms. Linda Opfer, who stood by him for 26 years, helping him build a new family with 4 kids.
Linda Opfer.
Thank you for joining us today, ma'am. I see you're very emotional as well.
It's been hard because every time Richard goes to jail, and not only do Brandy and Jennifer lose their father again, but also my 4 children.
And to be clear, you all are in a relationship.
26 years.
Yes, ma'am.
26 years.
Still, the looming jail sentence and the uncertainty surrounding his paternity have been a heavy weight on the entire family, both his new family and his extended one. Now the time had come to face their worst fear. Would he go to jail again?
Mr. Richard Lapine, you are her father. The next result pertains to Brandy. Mr. Richard Lapine is not your biological father.
In this next entry, Richeal versus Harris, we dive into a case between a couple and another woman who has been eating her cake and having it too. Let's unpack the details. Ms. Richeal came before the court with one goal: to determine the biological father of her 4-year-old daughter, Jasmine. But in what stands as a surprising twist, one man had signed the birth certificate while another was paying child support. How does that even happen?
Hello, Your Honor. This is a case of Richeal versus Harris.
Thank you, Jerome.
You're welcome.
Good day, everyone. Ms. Richeal, you are desperate to determine the biological father of your 4-year-old daughter, Jasmine. You confess that one man signed your daughter's birth certificate, yet another man is paying child support.
Mr. Harris was the potential father who had been paying support for a child he was convinced wasn't his. As worrisome as that sounds, this was only the tip of the iceberg. He spent 2 months in jail for owing $6,000 in delinquent support payments, and that's what pushed them all to their breaking point.
Now, Mr. Harris, you're the potential father who is paying support for a child you believe is not yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
Furthermore, you and your wife are furious that you spent 2 months in jail for $6,000 in delinquent support payments.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
Now, we'll address the potential father number 2.
Here's the kicker. Ms. Richeal and Mr. Harris lived on the same street, which is how they met and started a sexual relationship. Ms. Richeal believed it was something real, something that would stand the test of time. But oh, how wrong she was.
I was living across the street from him, and I seen him standing out there, and I was like, oh, he is fine.
Okay, so you guys met, and at some point you started a sexual relationship.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you were in just a sexual relationship, or you all were boyfriend and girlfriend, a committed relationship? What was it?
Well, he had said that we could be together, so therefore he had me thinking we were together, but
It was just a hookup, that's all it was.
Mr. Harris, on the other hand, had a very different perspective on the situation. He wasted no time in denying any sort of commitment, emphatically declaring that his encounter with the mother of the child was nothing more than a hookup, an impulsive and casual connection that happened without any forethought. He insisted it was the most random of flings, characterized by a lack of emotional involvement or intention. In his eyes, this was merely a fleeting moment in time, devoid of any significance or responsibility. Harris's swift dismissal of the relationship added another layer of tension to the courtroom, as his nonchalant attitude clashed with the gravity of the circumstances surrounding the paternity dispute.
All right, so Mr. Harris, you claim this was not a relationship.
It's not.
But you do admit to having a sexual relationship with Ms. Richeal.
When Ms. Richeal got pregnant, instead of reaching out to Mr. Harris, she contacted the other man. This man signed the birth certificate and was present throughout the pregnancy and birth.
I contacted the other guy.
And so did this other man sign the birth certificate when the baby was born?
Yes, he did.
Oh, Jerome, let me see that. So this other man was with you through the pregnancy?
Yes, he was.
And he was there at the birth too?
Yes, Your Honor.
And signed the birth certificate?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
But despite not being involved, Mr. Harris found himself dragged into this tangled web of legalities. He missed his DNA testing appointment, and as a result, he was declared the father by default. This unexpected turn of events left him in a precarious situation, as he now faced the harsh reality of being legally responsible for child support. Ridiculous, right? Harris was astounded that a single missed appointment could lead to such significant consequences, further igniting his frustration and disbelief. The weight of this sudden responsibility hung over him, intensifying the already dramatic atmosphere of the courtroom.
Appointment for your DNA test.
Yeah, that's how it happened. I missed my DNA appointment. I rescheduled it because I didn't have a way to get there. So I had another appointment, but I didn't make that one also. So they just deemed me as the father without actually having
So you were named the father by default because you failed to show up for your DNA test.
Not long after, the situation escalated. Mr. Harris was hauled off to jail. His records were pulled, and it was revealed that he owed $6,000 in child support. He ended up spending 2.5 months behind bars over something he believed was not his responsibility.
They came to the house. At first, I thought I was arrested because of traffic tickets, because that's what the police told me. But once I got to the jail, they actually pulled up my record and said that I owe like $6,000 back in child support. So I guess I owe for over.
After hearing the intense drama from both sides, Judge Loman felt it was finally time to get to the truth. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Tensions ran high as she prepared to unveil the reality behind the conflicting claims. Was the child really Mr. Harris's, the man now facing child support obligations, or was it the other individual, the one who had signed the birth certificate? With the stakes higher than ever, all eyes were on the judge, who knew that her announcement would impact lives forever. The courtroom held its breath as the air thickened with anticipation, ready to discover the identity of the child's true father. Let's see the results.
Mr. Harris, you are the father.
I don't want to deal with her for 14 more years. She harasses us on the phone. She calls us all the time.
Jerome, get me my violin.
I just
so I can play a tune to this.
Miss Martin is back in court to settle the paternity of her fifth child, Richeal. She claims that Mr. Blackman, the father of her other 4 kids, has been mistreating Richeal, which is why she wants to take all her kids away from him. Mr. Blackman doesn't believe Richeal is his, especially since Miss Martin admitted to cheating on him. Talk about a messy situation.
The father of your 4 kids treats your newborn baby like an evil stepchild.
Yes.
Because he doubts paternity. Furthermore, you claim that his behavior has forced you to take the kids and leave him.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're asking the court to award you $3,100 for the next 6 months of child care expenses.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Martin admits her feelings for Mr. Blackman faded because she didn't feel loved or appreciated. According to her, he's been emotionally and verbally abusive, which has only worsened their relationship. But Mr. Blackman isn't taking the blame without firing back. He claims she doesn't fulfill her motherly duties for their other 4 kids properly. It's a case of accusations flying on both sides.
We have 5 kids together. 6 with his daughter is also my stepchild. He always called me fat, you know, you lazy, you nasty, you don't do this. But how can I when I got a man saying all these things to me?
I can only say what I come home to.
Hold on now.
Miss Martin reveals they've been together for 6 years and have 4 kids, but Mr. Blackman still refuses to marry her. She gave him an ultimatum, which he ignored, so she started dating someone else. Now, the other man, Mr. Stevens, could potentially be Richeal's father, but who knows?
I gave him an ultimatum. I was ready to get married. I feel like after 6 years, why are you not ready? That's because you exploring your options. Maybe you looking for something better. I don't know, but if that's the case, then let me go.
So you left?
Yes, and he begged me to come back, and now he wants to get married.
The judge asks if Miss Martin feels guilty for leaving her kids and their father for 3 months to be with another man. She responds with a firm no, explaining that Mr. Blackman had been a liar and a cheater in the past, leaving her emotionally traumatized. This, she says, justified her actions.
I didn't feel guilty because he did a lot. He cheated. He's not no saint. I didn't feel guilty because
no saint, but
I was faithful to him.
Though. We got past. We were trying to build a life together. That you claimed.
He thought that we got past it, but I was still dealing with a lot of hurt.
Miss Martin says she came back to Mr. Blackman because she loved him and their kids, but Mr. Blackman isn't convinced. He doesn't believe her story or her intentions for returning.
To make it work for my kids.
But you see, Your Honor, she wanted to make it work for her kids, not for me. So I mean, she couldn't be.
You wasn't trying to make it work for me.
You were in an intimate relationship with Mr. Stevenson. Did you go back to Mr. Blackman?
Yes, she came back.
Why did you go back?
Because I loved him. I was not in love with him, but I loved him, and I thought we had a fighting chance.
When the judge asks about Mr. Stevens' reaction to her pregnancy, Miss Martin says he was happy at first, but shortly after, he disappeared and was unreachable for about 6 months.
For a minute, and then he just disappeared. He completely disappeared. I didn't hear from him for another 4 or 5 months.
Happy for a minute, then disappeared?
Mm-hmm.
Jerome, I think it's time we meet Mr. Stevenson. Please escort him into the courtroom.
Mr. Stevens is called into the courtroom, and he confirms he was initially happy about the pregnancy, but then disappeared. He explains he had to distance himself because Miss Martin constantly called him a deadbeat dad and didn't appreciate him.
She was pregnant. What was your initial reaction?
First, I was happy, and then I just disappeared.
She said that. That's exactly what she said. Why did you disappear?
She kept calling me a deadbeat daddy, this and that, that and that. I got tired of listening to
Because
her.
he wasn't there. That's what you was. He brought a used car seat to the hospital.
Who did?
Mr. Stevenson.
After giving birth to Richeal, both Mr. Blackman and Mr. Stevens came to the hospital, but neither of them signed the birth certificate. Miss Martin ended up signing it herself, naming the baby after Mr. Blackman, thinking he was the father.
But he had to go back home to the kids. After after I had the baby, Mr. Stevenson came. He was just like, oh, well, I want a DNA test, and he want the baby to have his name, but he didn't want to sign a birth certificate. But drilling me about a last name or a name, and I gave him Blackman. My baby name is Richeal Jeremiah Blackman.
Miss Martin brought Mr. Blackman's sister to court as a witness. She testified that she has been caring for Ramere since his birth because she believes her brother, Mr. Blackman, is the biological father. Judge Lauren angrily rejects Miss Martin's $3,100 child support request, stating that she's been playing both sides to her advantage. It becomes clear that Mr. Blackman's sister has been the one doing most of the care for Ramere since birth, exposing Miss Martin's inconsistent behavior.
Me, if there's somebody here that needs to be filing suit, is Miss Blackman. Your case is dismissed. And the worst part about it is the only people that have truly paid for these mistakes.
Mr. Stevens was ready to step up and care for Ramere, but Miss Martin never appreciated his efforts. So, who's the real father? There's only one way to find out. The DNA results will tell.
Mr. Stevenson, you are his father.
Huh?
Come here. I know you trying to be strong. You stop it.
Ms. Morris is 100% certain that Mr. Byram is the father of her 1-month-old son, Jackson. She already has 2 kids with him, so she's confident this third one is his too. But Mr. Byram believes she cheated and that the DNA test will prove he's not the father. If it does, he's ready to walk out of her life for good.
Relationship is based on this paternity test right here.
Explain.
This is the second time she's done this to me since we've been together. This isn't just the first time that she's cheated on me. This is the second time. And I've been nothing but faithful and loving to her since day one.
Second time, it happened once.
Ms. Morris, did you cheat on him?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Byram discovered Ms. Morris had cheated on him with his friend after going to her grandma's house following a fight. He saw his friend on the couch through the window, and when he entered the house, he found out the friend was hiding in the attic. Not only had Ms. Morris cheated with his friend, but she'd hidden him at her grandma's house too.
Out of the house, and basically I just went home and got my stuff together and left for a couple months.
So, Ms. Morris, how do you end up sleeping with his friend?
We were having trouble way before I even slept with his friend.
Good call, Mr. Byram. Ms. Morris defends herself by saying their marriage was already falling apart before the affair. She claims Mr. Byram was constantly accusing her of cheating, but given the situation, it looks like he wasn't far off, considering she cheated with his close friend. Honestly, could she have done anything worse to him?
Technically, we split up for a month. And he was living down the street at his friend's, and he was dating a different girl, and I was staying in the house with the guy, the other potential father. So we split up for.
The only reason I left is because you cheated on me.
It gets even worse. Ms. Morris claims she conceived Jackson in late September, but here's the catch. She slept with Mr. Byram's friend on September 25th and with Mr. Byram himself on September 27th. So now, either of them could potentially be Jackson's father.
The time she's saying she was sleeping with him every day. I would go over there and get mine in the morning, and she would have him at night.
We split up for a month. And he was constantly blowing my phone up every day because we completely split up. He moved to his friends down the street, and I was still in the house. Like, I was the one that got to stay at the house with.
Ms. Morris sure isn't making things easier. She claims her fling with the other guy only lasted the 1 month they were separated, while Mr. Byram insists it went on for 4 months. But the real question is, if it was that long, why did Mr. Byram even take her back in the first place?
I want to be there for my kids. I'm trying to make stuff work with her. That's it. My dad dipped out on me, and I'm not dipping out on my kids.
So, did you tell the other guy, Ms. Morris, that he could be the father as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
She's still talking to his mom about it.
No.
Sending his mom pictures of the baby.
Ms. Morris claims the other potential father of her baby, Jackson, is in prison, which is why he isn't present in court. Mr. Byram, who has been supporting Jackson, admits he keeps his distance to avoid forming an emotional bond with a child he believes might not be his. The underlying question remains, why did Ms. Morris choose to cheat with Mr. Byram's friend?
Care her and our kids kids by myself. She don't work.
I go to school. I go to cosmetology school, and the only reason I had to drop out was because I had the baby. So I plan on going back in the fall. It's just I have to get, a babysitter and stuff. So it's not like I sit around the house and do nothing.
In addition to all of this, Ms. Morris is not present at home to take care of the kids with Mr. Byron. Inasmuch as the air is thick with the question of who the real father is, he claims that she is not present and he does everything himself. What a complicated relationship, really.
So he's always, like I said, he was always
there because he was my friend.
He was always over a lot, I'll admit that, but it's just, he's always treated me like crap. He always belittles me. It's been going on for 4 years now, and it's just...
Do you have feelings for this other guy?
No, I don't.
Despite all this, Ms. Morris says she wants a second chance. She believes that she can make her marriage work, and that isn't the end of the road.
I'm ready to basically move on with our family. I understand the mistakes that I made. I at least admitted to it. I came out and said what I did, but I'm willing to become a family. We already are a family, but...
You want to work on this?
Yes.
She says she wants to try to be a family.
It's been a long session. Mr. Byron and Ms. Morris have taken the entire court on one long ride. There's just one way to settle all of this. Let's find out who the real father of this child is.
Mr. Byron, you are the father.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That really helped me out a lot.
How does it feel now?
Feels great.
Ms. Sisum and her teenage daughter, Destiny, are trying to prove Anthony Taylor is the father of baby Osiris. Anthony's mother, Ms. Brenda Riley, denies this, and the case spirals into family drama, with both grandmothers acting immaturely.
Your Honor, that Anthony is the father of Osiris.
And you are emotional already?
Yep. I have a grandson that's 8 months old. He needs his father. I lost my dad when I was 2. I know what it's like not to have a father. But I'm not here because of me. I'm not here because of Destiny. I'm here because of Osiris.
Ms. Sisum claims she didn't know her daughter, Destiny, was having intimate relations with Anthony, as Destiny only told her she was at her friend's house, Anthony's sister. Meanwhile, Mrs. Riley says Destiny often lied about visiting her daughter, but instead sneaks upstairs to spend time with Anthony.
My son was going to school. How are you going to tell me what to lie? Because, Your Honor, they was having sex in her house. You didn't even care when your daughter was there. What type of parent is she? If she gonna tell them, she told them. She told them.
Hold on, let's get some order.
Two adults are screaming over each other because Destiny fooled them both. She claimed she was visiting Anthony's sister, but instead, she spent time with Anthony, leading to her pregnancy. Both women were deceived, but the real focus should be on baby Osiris and determining his father, even though both women are being silly and trying to make it all about their drama.
I see her walking with another guy. My son at school, this is before Destiny said anything about you was pregnant. Next thing you know, I find out my son come telling me that she told him that she pregnant. How is that? You just came around 2 weeks ago?
Mrs. Riley seems to be saying that Destiny was never having sex with her son. This is despite it being clear that both teenagers were involved at some point. Ms. Sisum believes her daughter was a virgin before she met Anthony and thinks that it's impossible for Anthony not to be the father of her child.
Therefore, yes, it's Anthony's baby, and that's what we're here for, to get this DNA. It's not my grandbaby. Okay, don't claim him. You ain't claimed him 8 months. Don't claim him now. Y'all ain't did nothing for him. I've been taking care of this baby. They don't do nothing for him. That's a lie. They don't do nothing for him. Sure don't.
All right.
It's not my grandbaby. At the end of the day, it's not my grandbaby.
Ladies.
The judge can barely get a word in because the two grandmothers are too busy insulting each other. It's almost like their personal feud is more important than figuring out the paternity of the 8-month-old child. Can you imagine having grandmothers like that? Let's shift focus now and hear what Destiny has to say.
Destiny, where were you and Anthony having sex? In her house?
Yes.
While Miss Riley was home?
Yes, Your Honor. She knew I was there because I get off work. Anthony would be like, my mom says you can come over, and I say, okay. I would go over there. I would come in, say hi, Miss Brenda. She say hi, we go upstairs. I spend the night. She don't say nothing about it.
Apparently, Mrs. Riley seems to be even more careless than Ms. Sisum. Destiny was sleeping in Anthony's bed, and his mother knew, and she did nothing about it.
Did she know you was having sex in her house? You know what Destiny told me, Your Honor? She said yeah because she told them, I hope y'all using condoms. She said Destiny said she gave Anthony condoms. Yes. What type of parent is that? What?
Why would Mrs. Riley pretend in court that she didn't know about Anthony and Destiny's relationship? According to Destiny, Mrs. Riley was actually one of the first to find out she was pregnant. Yet, Mrs. Riley immediately expressed doubts, saying she couldn't accept the baby because she wasn't sure if it was her son's. Even Anthony didn't want the baby at first. This just adds another layer of confusion and denial to the already chaotic situation.
Like, we should just wait to have a baby because I'm not stable. Like, you got a job, but I don't, and I don't want you to be the only one taking care of him. So we go upstairs, we talk more about it, and he said, you know what, I don't feel safe in the streets, so I think you should have my child, just in case if I leave this earth, you can have something to remember me by.
Anthony thinks leaving a baby behind will solve his problems. Clearly not the best life strategy. And Mrs. Riley, let's just say her son's actions don't reflect well on her parenting. In short, the whole mess is a reflection of poor choices all around, with little Osiris stuck in the middle.
Yeah. He came to appointments with you?
Yeah.
And when the baby was born, was he at the hospital?
He was there. Yes, we were all there. Anthony was there. He cut the cord and everything. She even came without nobody inviting her.
I mean, if I don't like someone, you won't catch me showing up at the hospital for their grandchild, let alone pretending to care. But Mrs. Riley? Oh no, she went. Even though she claims the baby isn't her grandchild, and now she's conveniently denying it all. That's some serious nerve.
Came where? To the hospital. Don't say you didn't.
Wait a minute.
Because they escorted you out. Me and Destiny had her escorted out of the hospital by security.
Being born.
We sure did.
She came
One
out.
at a time. One at a time, ladies.
That's my grandbaby being born in her rude, unselfish, disrespectful self. She comes in there, I'm in the waiting room, she's sitting the guard in there and tell them lying.
What's Mrs. Riley's deal? If she thinks Osiris isn't her son's kid, why bother showing up at the hospital at all? She claims it was just to prevent Anthony from signing the birth certificate and taking responsibility for a child he doesn't believe is his. But really, the focus is lost with both grandmas still at each other's throats. Now it's Anthony's turn to weigh in on whether he thinks Osiris is really his son or not. Let's see how this drama unfolds.
I picked Destiny and I took her virginity, and I felt like I was getting into a lot of trouble and things that was happening, and I felt like I needed another person that like got me like my blood. And like I didn't want to have a baby, but as in like the things that I was like going through, and like by my cousin dying. And
it's truly heartbreaking. Mrs. Riley is so fixated on tearing down Destiny and her mother that she overlooks the fact that her own child is struggling. This family dynamic is a classic case of dysfunction breeding dysfunction. But enough with the drama. The moment of truth is finally here. Is Anthony actually Osiris's father? Let's find out.
Mr. Taylor, you are his father.
Now! I get to see him now. Now I told you. And I'm going to keep taking care of him. And at the end of the day, that is my grandson. I'm still going to take care of him. I bet I can.
This is about the most ignorant stuff I done seen in here in a long time. Sit down. Sit down.
Ms. Whitman cheated on Mr. Mapson, the man she loves, with Mr. Anderson. All three of them are in court today. Mr. Anderson, on the other hand, knew she was intimate with other men when he slept with her and she had a baby. Because of this, he is denying paternity.
With other men besides me.
Specifically, how do you know that?
Because I've seen them up there, Your Honor.
Up where?
Me, for one.
No. I need details. This is court. I need details. I need facts.
Okay.
You say...
I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah, you say you saw them with your own eyes.
Yeah,
Explain to the court.
Okay, that's just precious. We have one of this kind in court again. Slept with his cousin, really, Ms. Whitman? Are there no other men in the neighborhood? It's wild enough that she cheated on Mr. Mapson with Mr. Anderson, but now she's cheating on Mr. Anderson with his own cousin. You're not in a cheating competition, Ms. Whitman.
Did your cousin tell you that he slept with her?
Yeah, we done gave each other daps and everything.
Ms. Whitman, do you know who this cousin is?
Yes, I know who his cousin is, but his cousin did not stay a week.
Well, how long did he stay?
No, I did not. His cousin liked me, but we never slept together. He bought me a bed when I first
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that cousin.
He bought you a bed?
I'm not talking about that cousin.
Yes.
Are you sure about that, Ms. Whitman? Well, we will soon find out. But oh my goodness, what a woman. He got her a bed and he went along to test and break it in too. What a guy. Just how many cousins does Mr. Anderson have, and how many of them did Ms. Whitman sleep with again?
Did you have any idea that she was sleeping with other people?
Kind of had suspicions because of our relationship. It was a long distance relationship. Myself in that situation then found out that it's not mine. It just, I didn't feel comfortable with that.
So you didn't go to any doctor's appointments with her?
Nope.
It was a long-distance relationship. No wonder Ms. Whitman had all the time in the world for Mr. Anderson and all his cousins. Oh, the hurt Mr. Mapson must have felt. There's no way Ms. Whitman was not hurt as well, seeing as she was going for all her doctor appointments all by herself.
I went through the whole birth alone, the whole 9 months. He even stopped talking to me, and I couldn't get a hold of Mr. Anderson because he blocked all communications, Facebook, telephone, and he stopped answering the phone for me, Mr. Mapson.
The reason I blocked her off because of the stuff she was doing on Facebook. She was, you know what I'm saying, just out there just saying, this is my baby daddy, knowing she been with other
I've
people.
never put on Facebook that you're my baby daddy.
Yikes, poor Mr. Anderson. He lost his baby mama's trust. Isn't that crazy? Next time, if you have a baby mama that you do indeed take seriously, you don't go off sleeping with other women, okay? Especially women like Ms. Whitman that are sleeping with other men that you do know about.
Did you pursue a DNA test at all? Did you
Yes.
say, I want to have a paternity test?
Yes, I did.
What happened?
And we argued about that.
What's the argument? She admitted she didn't know.
He wanted me to pay half of DNA test, but Mr. Mapson also wanted me to pay half. I wasn't finna pay half for both people.
What a woman. The cost of both paternity tests was just too expensive to even think about. Well, Ms. Whitman, that's what happens when you have affairs with two men at the same time. It's called consequences.
Now that Michaela is here, has anyone bonded with her? Have either of you two gentlemen? You have, Mr. Mapson. So now that she's here.
I went to see the baby, and she was pretty. She was a beautiful baby. So I showed her around to my family, even called my kids, asked them what they think about her, and they all said, we believe it's yours, because she kind of looked like my youngest son.
He really carried that baby around everywhere, asking everyone in his family if the baby looks like him and everything. Of course, they said yes, too. His kids even think the baby looks like all of them. What a wild way to confirm paternity.
We're trying to get the results of this, and then maybe we could move forward. But I don't want to lose Mr. Mapson, but I'm afraid that if he's not the father, our relationship is basically over.
So, Mr. Mapson, are you willing to work on this relationship if, in fact, it's determined that Michaela is your biological daughter?
She mine. I'm willing to be with her. I told her once that.
Oh, Mr. Mapson, this man is so hurt by the outcome of events, you just want to reach in and hug the dude. If he says that's what he's gonna do, we have to believe that's what he's gonna do. Now, it all depends on what the results have to say.
You lied in the courtroom previously. You said
a
man was not staying there with you for
But
a
we
week.
were not having sex. He stayed there. He was sleeping on the couch. He stayed there until he got all his utilities at his house back on.
And you didn't tell Mitch
And I
about
was
that,
helping
did
him
you?
out. No, I did not tell Mitch.
You've just admitted that you lied in the courtroom previously because you previously stated that a man did not stay at your home for a week when Mr. Anderson testified that he did.
Oh, Judge Lake has simply had it with Ms. Whitman. She just had to call her a liar in front of the entire court. What does Ms. Whitman think this is? There was no reason to lie about anything. The look on Mitch Mapson's face after he heard that was just priceless. This man has learnt of the absolute worst things today.
Mr. Anderson, you are not her father.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. I knew it. I knew it all the time. All that stuff you've done to me.
We have another result. Mr. Mapson, you are her father.
Can I come up and shake his hand?
He'd like to shake your hand.
She does not believe it's her great-grandson. She's in court on behalf of her grandson and their family to deny the paternity of the child. We're adding another grandma to the list of stupid moms in court today. She adds that there are reasons why Ms. Brugger is intent on pinning the paternity of the baby on her family.
All right, you claim your granddaughter knows for a fact your grandson was sterile.
Yes, Your Honor.
What do you believe Ms. Brugger's motives actually are?
Money, gold digger. Right after Parrish got killed, she went for Social Security. And Parrish, I know Parrish had told her about the land we had in Texas. You know, she was just trying to cash in on him. And she wanted a father for her girls.
Take a look at that. Now she just called Ms. Brugger a gold digger, so she knows that her son was sterile too. Isn't that something? The way this woman keeps making it seem like she was the third party in her grandson, and Ms. Brugger's relationship is absolutely wild.
And the fact that they're saying he was sterile, he was never told by a doctor. That was just him because he never had a child.
Me and Parrish clearly had a conversation before he passed that he wasn't sure.
And so when you say he wasn't sure, what did he say?
Because he was just like, Chaz, I don't even think I can have kids. All he wanted his whole life was a baby. And then he gets with Richeal, and then she comes pregnant like a month or two later. He didn't even think that he could have kids.
Oh, I see. So there was no doctor to diagnose his sterility. The only doctor present here is Ms. Warner and her granddaughter in court today. The way these two women are so confident in the sterility story is absolutely something. How could you possibly be sure enough to bring sterility to paternity court without clinical diagnosis? Oh, come on, moms.
We lived together. We were a family. He told everyone my girls were his stepdaughters. He called them his stepdaughters, everything. He was there through my whole pregnancy, all the doctor's appointments, everything.
And when you had the baby, was he at the hospital?
No, he couldn't be there, but as soon as he got out, he was adamant about having the hospital hold on to the birth certificate before they turned it in so that he could sign it.
So do you have proof of that?
Yes.
Now it's crazy that all these things add up. It honestly looks suspicious. It's enough to bet that if Parrish Sanar were in court today, bless his soul, he'd almost be jumping to support Ms. Brugger. So what exactly is going on with the Warner's testament? Why are these women against Ms. Brugger? Are they about to make an insane mistake?
While you were in this relationship, he's going to doctor's appointments with you, and he's excited about the baby and calling your girls his stepchildren. Is he expressing any of this excitement, Ms. Warner, Ms. Beasley, to you that I'm having a child, I believe it's mine?
Yes, Your Honor. Our kid.
But you just don't believe it is.
Yes, Your Honor.
You had a shower?
I had a baby shower, yes.
Okay, hold up. Now what exactly is wrong with these women? This man just told you about how he feels about having a family and how excited he is about having a baby with Ms. Brugger, but for God knows what reason, they simply don't believe it, and this is why they're here. What a duo.
You did?
I did go because of Parrish. Parrish was alive then. That was his baby. But to me, that's not his child. He loved the baby, Your Honor, but the baby doesn't even look like him. He doesn't act like him. His forehead's not, there's nothing about him to tell me that that is my grandson. The baby.
My son looks.
No, he doesn't.
Around his eyes, he looks just like him.
No.
He looks like his grandpa.
No, that's not his grandpa. His grandpa ain't never did nothing for Parrish. I don't know what, no. Well,
that's what y'all say.
Again, what is wrong with these two? His grandmother went to his child's baby shower, listened to him go on about how it is his baby, but she does not believe it. Now she's going on and on about the semblance card. Ms. Warner, do you realize that this is your great-grandson and not your son?
In a relationship, he's been the one that's been around. I invited them to my son's first birthday party. They didn't show up.
That's not my son. That's why I didn't show up.
And if y'all felt this way about my son, why did y'all never say
nothing when
he was born?
I loved Parrish.
Or when his father was alive?
I love Parrish and I wasn't. Parrish is no longer here. He's no longer here now.
But if y'all felt that this was not his son, why
now.
wouldn't you say something when he was alive or when my son was born?
Oh, I see. She never wanted to come between Parrish Center and the baby. She loved Parrish so much and she did not wish to hurt him. All of this applies for when he was alive. Now that Parrish has passed, why? Oh, why are you doing this, Ms. Warner?
And then, Your Honor, there was also times when Parrish would call my grandmother that Richeal wasn't picking him up from work. He was late to picking her up, and she couldn't explain to him on why all that was happening. There was times when she kicked Parrish out. He came to my grandmother's house. She had to give him money to stay at a hotel room.
Your Honor, the only time he was staying at a hotel was after he was gone out of my house. The girlfriend he had after me, they lived in a hotel. When he was living with me.
Hold up a second. These women thought they had Ms. Brugger in a corner. She came out of that and defended herself so fast, it knocked the bitterness right off their faces. If anything, these women have started to regret coming to paternity court right about now.
Okay, I have a question though, Richeal. If it comes back and that is his, is my grandma even gonna be able to see the baby?
You cannot.
You act so funny. You act so funny with him.
I'm so funny, but
why weren't so funny with him?
Why weren't y'all at the baby
I wasn't
shower?
there because my 1-year-old was sick.
I invited you
and
to
I
his
talked
birthday.
to you. And what did I
you
tell
didn't
you?
show up.
And what did I tell you?
How are you guys
so I'm
gonna
gonna
say
bring another
that
baby.
I don't invite you guys? Did you
did
guys
come.
ever come to my house to see him?
I
You
came.
came a couple times.
No,
you never
I didn't.
Did.
I have my own kid. Let's just
And
be real
Parrish,
about it.
but how
I
many
have my
times
own.
Just look at these women. They're completely into bickering right now. They don't even see anybody else. Would you look at that? It's a lot to imagine how Parrish Sanar would react if he were in this courtroom, but things would certainly take a different turn. To cut things short, let's see the results.
Mr. Harvey is related to Parrish Brooks Jr. Therefore, Parrish Brooks Sr. is also related to Parrish Brooks Jr.
Okay, I owe you an apology.
Something we already do.
I owe you an apology.
He doesn't believe it's his baby because they had sex on the first night they met. Because of this, he doesn't trust that she has not been doing the same with other men. Now she claims he did a fake DNA test to avoid responsibility. This case is wild as it is bonkers.
You know, for the weekend or just one night, so I want to go see her. And that day that I want to go see her, we basically had sex that first night.
It was not that
yes,
first night.
It was.
No,
yes, it
no,
was
it
the
wasn't.
first night. Yes,
No.
it was. Yes, it was.
No, it was not.
Yeah, whatever.
Ms. Lopez, you meet and you start a relationship.
Yes.
You're having sex.
Yes, Your Honor.
Unprotected sex. How do we get to the point where you find out you're pregnant and there's a question regarding the paternity?
Shocking as it may seem, Ms. Lopez, men are quite disappointing, and you need to get with the program. Can you imagine her shock, coming to meet the person she had consensual, unprotected sex with and hearing that he is not interested in the baby? Judge Lauren simply had to ask her a question afterwards.
Was there any other person
No, Your Honor.
that you were having sex with at that time?
No, Your Honor.
I need to clarify. You're the mother of 2 children.
Yes, Your Honor.
But there is a doubt as to the paternity to both of the children. That's what you contend, Mr. Carbajal?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's start with your daughter that's 2 years old, Aliana.
Yes.
So you claim Mr. Carbajal was the only person you were with
Yes, Your Honor.
during that time that she
Yes,
was
Your Honor.
conceived.
Are you sure about that, Ms. Lopez? Mr. Carbajal seems awfully convinced that you have not been honest with him, and you are not being honest with the court. Also, wait a minute, she has 2 kids also? All of them apparently Mr. Carbajal's? Well, all right.
He says he's the father. He's even has her name tattooed on his arm. He was there a
You
week.
have her name
Yes, I do,
tattooed
Your
on your
Honor.
arm?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Even though you doubt it?
Because when she was first born, I was attached to her. I was really attached to her.
Okay, so you were attached to her.
Yeah.
So then why doubt? What made you doubt?
The picture?
No, there was another man.
There
that
was not another man.
She showed my sister Miriam.
He was a friend
picture
of mine.
a guy, and my sister took picture of her phone.
Whoops, so there is another man? Did Ms. Lopez not just say that there was nobody else in the picture? Is someone lying in the courtroom today? Hopefully not. Back to Ms. Carbajal, why something as permanent as a tattoo if you're going to find yourself here today denying the same baby?
Second time around, he wasn't there either for the Noah's birth. I was there for Noah's birth. I was there for both babies.
Why could I be?
Why is it?
Because
Because
you were never
Yeah, I was
around.
gonna
You
go. I
changed
was
your
going.
phone number.
What is it about this handsome young man that you doubt that he's your son?
I'm light-skinned, Your Honor.
He looks just like his grandpa.
Dad is dark.
Of course, they would bring out the semblance card again. No day in court does this thing fail to be brought up. What do you mean you're light-skinned and the baby is dark? Could you possibly comprehend the genes of the baby?
I sent it because to show him that there would be another man, possibly, to man up and take care of his responsibilities. I did not meet up with my ex until a month before I had my daughter. I had no sexual contact with my ex or anybody else but your brother, Christina.
That was too soon, though.
It was not too
Yes, it
soon.
was.
The time that you sent us that picture, you were already pregnant with Noah.
Yes,
and
you
that
were.
guy looks exactly like Noah.
Yeah.
No.
Whoa, Ms. Lopez, things are starting to look pretty wonky right now. Your ex is in a picture with your baby and you still showed it to Mr. Carbajal? Why would your ex choose to be in picture with a baby if he does not believe it is his baby? And why would he believe it is his baby if he has not been sleeping around with you? Your lies are not adding up, ma'am.
It's
My
a big,
son, when my
dark
daughter
man,
was holding.
She said she
and
got pregnant in November when I seen her in December.
I was not pregnant in November,
Yes, you
okay?
were.
I
Yes,
did not
you
do
were.
She came to
nothing with
visit.
nobody.
She came to
So
visit
you
to my
believe
house.
she was already pregnant?
Yes.
No.
Were you intimate with anyone else?
No, Your Honor, I was not.
Mr. Carbajal, do you believe you were the only man she was having sex with?
I don't know that.
Well, all right, Ms. Lopez. If you say so, if you say that there is no possibility you were with another man in that time frame, we just have to believe you, don't we? Seems like this woman is taking the court on a wild goose chase with her lies.
Mr. Carbajal, you are not her father. We have the results now from a laboratory conducted DNA test, and you sitting up there still arguing about a home DNA test. Now I know you all don't have no sense.
Oh my goodness, he's not the father of Aliana. It seems like both the potential father and his sister saw through her lies, but this silly woman attempted to lie to everyone in the courtroom. And Judge Lake absolutely hates being lied to. She asks the same question again.
Sleeping with anyone else besides Mr. Carbajal at the time?
One, Your Honor.
Which is the one in the picture.
It's not the one in the
Obviously.
picture,
Pretty sure
okay?
it is.
No, it's not, Christina.
Ms. Lopez?
Yes.
You stood in this courtroom and lied. You lied. So I had to give you the benefit of the doubt. But you kept, yeah. Every time I would ask you a question, you didn't really have a great answer. But you answered everybody else's questions.
I don't know what to say.
Exactly.
Looks like we have two stupid moms here in court. What, did they really think that they could lie and get away with it? This is paternity court, Ms. Lopez. There is nowhere you can hide. The results will always rat you out.
Now put your hand down and look at me. You don't get to go into boo-hoo cry mode.
You don't even
You're
talk to me.
learning a valuable lesson right now. Mr. Carbajal, quiet. Mr. Carbajal, you are not.
Thank you.
Noah's father.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.